And coming up on Mountain News this morning, another group of Kentuckians prepare to travel to Florida to help the many people affected by Hurricane Ian. And business owners here in our region continue to try and rebuild their businesses as we continue to recover from our own weather-related disaster.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning to you. 6 o'clock, and boy, it's Friday, and we are happy about that. I'm Dakota Makris. Good morning to you. The camera just moved. It just pshoo. Anyway, all right, let's go to Brandon this morning. Brandon, good morning to you. And you're still tracking Hurricane Ian. I said in the beginning of the 5 o'clock it was a tropical storm. Then it moved to a hurricane category, because I asked Evan yesterday, I said, hey, can I use this tropical storm, stinger that shows on the screen? He said, no, I would not, because it's going to change. So, and it did.
Exactly. So, I mean, it wasn't a tropical storm very long, but it crossed the entire state of Florida. Just to go ahead and tell you how powerful this system has been. It came in southwest Florida near Fort Myers as a Category 4, high-end Category 4, crossed the entire state of Florida, came back into the Atlantic, was a tropical storm for probably 2 runs from the Hurricane Service or Hurricane Center, and now it's back to a hurricane and gaining strength as it approaches the South Carolina coastline. Let's take a look and see what's going on out in our region this morning. Pine Mountain here just after 6 o'clock. Not a whole lot up there this morning. Fog in the valleys, but not too much on the ridges. 37 now, the cold spot in Irvin. Jonesville back down to the 39-degree club along with Clintwood, and then 48 on the other end of the scale there, Moorhead and Prestonsburg, or Moorhead and Somerset rather. Prestonsburg's at 43. There's a lot of low to mid 40s out there this morning. For the next 6 hours, temperatures will climb, but clouds will increase gradually as we head throughout the day, and we'll see dreary conditions for most of the day, but dry until a little bit later tonight when the action picks up for us here in our region. Dakota?
All right, Brendan, thank you. Well, CBS News confirms at least 6 deaths in Florida are being blamed on Hurricane Ian. Rescue crews across the state are continuing to work to save people who could be trapped in flooded homes and buildings left in ruins. CBS's Christian Benavides is in Florida with more.
Near Fort Myers, search and rescue teams brought residents of Sanibel and Captiva to safety and scoured the barrier islands for signs of life.
So people that were surprised by how quickly the storm turned and ended up being trapped.
Hurricane Ian's massive storm surge ripped away large parts of the Sanibel Causeway, cutting off access by land. Across Florida, the destruction can be seen from the air for miles around. At the storm's peak, Naples Fire and Rescue had to break the window of this car to pull a woman to safety. Throughout much of the state, people are assessing their losses and counting their blessings.
I'm trying to be brave.
After Ian made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane Wednesday with sustained winds of 150 miles per hour, it tore apart this Fort Myers trailer park.
I literally watched my house disappear with everything in it.
In this Central Florida retirement community yesterday afternoon, airboats with rescue crews were a welcome sight.
I didn't realize they had a storm until they told me. I was asleep.
Here in Kissimmee near Orlando, the city has implemented a mandatory curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. because of major flooding. In all, the county says Ian dropped more than a foot of rain.
We're going to do our best to build Florida back as quickly as possible, but we're not going to be leaving.
At FEMA headquarters in Washington, President Biden said as soon as conditions allow, he will visit Florida and Puerto Rico, which was ravaged by Hurricane Fiona just days ago. Christian Benavides, CBS News, Kissimmee, Florida.
After weakening into a tropical storm, Ian strengthened into a Category 1 hurricane while over the Atlantic. It now takes aim at Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina coasts. Well, volunteers are preparing to head south to help hurricane victims. Dozens will leave Sunday to help feed thousands of people through Kentucky Baptist Relief. One volunteer says the group is typically on the go for several months out of the year. It is no coincidence that those months typically correspond to hurricane season. This year is different, though. Kentucky Baptist Relief's work started a little earlier this year in eastern Kentucky. Now those volunteers are preparing to head south to Florida to cook for thousands of people.
We're going to face the same things. We're going to see people that's lost everything.
Baptist Relief hopes to have about 60 volunteers, and they will come from all over Kentucky, including some in eastern Kentucky that lived in flooded areas. The Kentucky crews are planning to be at a church in Sarasota, Florida, which is right on the coast south of Petersburg. Well, we are hearing from one eastern Kentuckian who went to Florida to chase Hurricane Ian. We were able to talk with him about what he has been seeing. I talked with Perry County native Chris Hall earlier this week before Hurricane Ian hit Florida.
We're in the middle of it.
You can see just how powerful the storm was in this video Hall shot. He is with 606 Storm Chasing. They spent their Wednesday in Punta Gorda.
We were at the northeast quadrant whenever it first started making landfall. We were up against a garage looking at a construction site, and those big cranes ended up falling over right in front of us.
He made it back to Tampa to his hotel. He says trees are down and stoplights are out. A tree even fell on his car, saying once the storm calmed down some, they made their way to the eye of the hurricane.
Traveled south to go into the eye of the storm, where the calmer part of the storm is. We got in there, and actually during the eye, we checked a trailer park for folks that may have been injured or anything, but everybody was luckily safe.
While they were inside the eye, they saw an RV flipped over. He says they checked it out and believe no one was inside.
A lot of people won't experience that. Hopefully you won't have to, but it's a different experience to be in the middle of, I guess you could truly say, calm before the storm.
This is easily 125 max.
Dakota Makris, WYMT Mountain News. Well, Hall tells us he is staying in Florida to help aid in search and rescue efforts. Here in our region, a company called Wet and Forget donated 20 pallets of their mold-killing product to flood-affected counties yesterday. The donation was worth a total of $78,000. It is the only trusted product allowed on military tombstones and will be distributed to the Soil and Conservation District sites in each flood-affected county.
It really cleans off the mold, but takes a few days. It's not like it works overnight, but you don't have to scrub it. It works on its own without you having to do that. So.
Well, officials say if you are a flood victim and in need of the product, you can pick it up at the Soil and Conservation District site in the hardest hit counties. Whitesburg is still recovering from the devastating flood. After 2 months of cleaning up, businesses are slowly opening up again. City employee Lee Adams says the area is building back to be as strong as ever.
Mountain people are hard workers, and they take care of their own. And I think that just neighbor helping neighbor and things like that, family helping family, that's how people have overcome and moving on.
Adams says the Mountain Heritage Festival had to be canceled because of cleanup efforts, but Oktoberfest is still on the schedule for October 8th. One family who was saved by first responders in July are well on their way to returning to their home and their business. Onis and Deidre Hennekamp live in the Garrett community of Floyd County and are the owners of Hennekamp Manor Bikes and Books, which is operated out of a small shed on their property. Well, during the flooding, they were rescued by first responders. Both say they are thankful to be alive today, and they were in a terrifying situation that morning.
We had watched the water come in the front door, and I was thinking, I've never seen this before. I've never experienced this before. God have mercy on us.
Well, they say they believe they will be back in their home by Thanksgiving. Governor Andy Beshear announced more travel trailers are expected to be placed in various parts of eastern Kentucky to assist families without a home. 167 families are in travel trailers, with more than 80 families currently on site. The governor announced all schools affected by flooding are back in session. He talked about how this will provide a lot of stability to children who are affected.
This took a huge effort from our school systems, from the superintendents finding the buildings we could use in some instances, to the teachers who had fully prepared their classrooms, only to have them wiped out, to the parents, to the people who are making donations. Thank you for being there for our children.
Well, the governor says the communication between those affected by flood and FEMA has been much stronger.
6:09 here on this Friday morning. We continue to track Hurricane Ian. Not quite made a second landfall just yet off of the South Carolina coast. That comes later today, and that will move toward us as we head toward tonight and tomorrow. Visibility issues this morning. Some dense fog out there. So again, not all the sensors are showing it, but be careful. Give yourself plenty of time to get back and forth this morning. Watch out for those school buses. Mountain Parkway near the Wolf-Powell County line at Slade. A little cool up there, 45. As you see, not much traffic and kind of a dark picture there. 39 Jonesville, Clintwood, 37 in Irvin, 48 Somerset and Moorhead this morning. Everybody else except for Jackson and Logan at 46 is in the low to mid 40s this morning. The next dozen hours, as we clear the donuts away, we are taking the clouds up a notch. We're going to see those move in pretty quickly this morning. You should see a little bit of sunshine early before the clouds take over, probably by mid to late morning, and they'll be around through the rest of the day. Highest top out in the upper 60s. Dakota?
All right, Brendan, thank you. When we come back here on Mountain News this morning, the U.S. plans to form a new command center to further help Ukraine as the country continues to fight off invading forces from Russia. Stay with us.